الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Our beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said in a hadith that there is a piece of flesh in the body. Once this flesh is rectified, then the entire body becomes rectified. And if this piece of flesh becomes corrupt, then the entire body becomes corrupt. That piece of flesh is the heart. From the Quran and Hadith perspective, the heart holds a lot of significance, not only Islamically, but medically as well. If the heart is dead, that person will no longer live. In the same manner, if the heart is not given its nourishment, spiritual nourishment, then that heart becomes dead. Salah is spiritual nourishment. Fasting is spiritual nourishment. Tilawat of the Quran, recitation of the Quran is spiritual nourishment. Coming to the masjid in good environment is spiritual nourishment. Ilm is spiritual nourishment. Allah's dhikr and remembrance is spiritual nourishment. So the soul needs the spiritual nourishment. Otherwise, there's no difference between a Muslim and a non-Muslim from this sense that a non-Muslim, he eats, drinks, works, and goes to sleep. And there's no objective and purpose of his life. So those Muslims who just work, eat, drink, and go to sleep, and there's no Islam in their life. There's no Allah in their life. There's no masajid in their life. There's no work of deens in their life. Then that soul, because it's deprived from spiritual nourishment, that person then, slowly, he adopts what the environment gives him. And there's a famous saying in the English language that you are a product of your environment. So you either are a product of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's environment, the Islamic environment, or you take what the environment gives you. You take what social media gives you. You take what this biased media gives you. You take that narrative. So you either take Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's narrative, build the heart, work on the heart, develop those good characteristics, praiseworthy characteristics, or you automatically, by default, you will be taking what the environment gives you. It is this reason many Muslims who we encounter on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, they are our dear friends. We meet with them, we eat with them, we drink with them, yet many a times we see their ideologies, their beliefs are completely contrary to the beliefs and ideologies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we wonder, how is this even possible? So again, when the soul is deprived of the spiritual nourishment in the form of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the word remembrance is a very broad word. It includes all of these commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the specific command is obviously verbal dhikr, and the more general meaning encompasses every single worship. So if the soul is deprived of this, then it will no longer consider bad to be bad, and rather it will consider good to be bad and bad to be good. In 1917, a dispute broke out between the Hindu and Muslim communities over a small piece of land in Lahore. One Muslim traveler was passing, and he performed salah on this piece of land. That upset the local Hindus. So it was the desire of the local Muslim community and the Hindu community that they build their house of worship on this piece of land. This was during the time of the British rule. So a Muslim lawyer, he gave the suggestion that a masjid should be constructed on this piece of land by the morning. So after the Isha Salah, the Muslims, they accepted this suggestion. They got together, and under the leadership of a very well-known local wrestler whose name was Ghama Pahalwan, they started the construction. So it started after Isha, and it finished by Fajr Salah. So the next day, when the British judge came to take a look at the site, he ruled in favor of the Muslims because the British government pledged not to disturb existing religious sites. So that Muslim lawyer knew that if a masjid was built here, automatically the decision would be in favor of the Muslims. So on the gate, on the ground floor, there's a banner. And on that banner, there's an inscription of a very famous poet, Allama Iqbal rahimahullah ta'ala. So after this construction happened, Allama Iqbal rahimahullah ta'ala, he said these couplets, and these couplets fit us. They are applicable to us. He said, Masjid to banadi shabbar mein, iman ki hararat walon ne, man apna purana papi raha, barson mein namazi ban na saka. So although very passionate and zealous Muslims, they came together, they constructed a masjid, but the hearts for several years have not yielded and submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So many of us find ourselves in this situation as well. We have the ICP Masjid, alhamdulillah. We have many masajid here in the local Austin area. And these masajid are very beautiful, alhamdulillah. But how long have we been worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And have we even worried about the construction of our hearts? Our salah 10 years ago is the exact same as today. No difference. The way that we hold our hands, the way that we prostrate, perform sujood, qiyam, etc. Our appearance, which was there 10 years ago, is the exact same today. Our knowledge, our ilm, which was there 10 years ago, is still the exact same today. Our worships have not increased. And if they have increased, the quantity is increasing, but the quality is stagnant. This is exactly what Allama Iqbal is saying, and this is in line with the teachings of the Sharia, especially the hadith which I mentioned at the beginning, and that is, if we work in our hearts and fix our hearts, the entire body becomes correct, and if the heart is corrupt, then the entire body becomes corrupt. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to understand and practice. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Sadaqallahu al-azim.